Hi, guys. Welcome to this episode of the Trainer Feed. I'm one of your hosts, Jacques Delagere. And with me only today is David Bravo.
Hi.
How you feeling, man?
Good. Unlike other people.
Yes, unfortunately, Angel is out today. We want to
He's not
wish him the
feeling great.
best. He's not feeling great, but he will be back with us very soon
He'll be
because
back next
he
week.
is relentless. He'll be back next week for sure.
Yeah.
So today we want to keep it very short, very sweet. And David came up with a very great idea of looking through what are some of the most Googled questions in health and exercise. So what are the things that people are most commonly Googling? And so this episode, we're going to break down two of those. The first one being how long, the question being, or the most common question, sorry, that's looked up is how long does it take to see results once you start exercising? What are your thoughts on this, David?
That question is I hate answering a question with like it depends because it's like, always
it's true.
of course. But it just takes a lot of consistency. That's just it. I mean, if you're very consistent off the, right off the cuff, consistency in the first 2-3, I would say if you're very consistent in a month, you could see some noticeable differences. I mean, there are things that you probably won't notice, and that's one of the things that I think discourages people from starting a workout regimen or maintaining a workout regimen because they don't see things fast enough. And I think a lot of people are still stuck in the instant gratification mindset where they want to see something super quick. What I will say though is it is quick if you're a novice. It is kind of quick to see results in terms of numbers, in terms of what you're lifting. You could easily in a week maybe add 10-20 pounds to a squat, and that's I think one of the most noticeable differences that you could achieve quickly. But in terms of body composition, that's what takes a little longer. And I would say maybe to put a number to it, 3 to 4 weeks would be a safe bet for you to notice. Maybe a t-shirt fits better, or maybe your pants fit better. With all that said, monitoring the scale is something that I think shouldn't be the biggest thing you should be doing, because if you're looking at the number constantly, then it's gonna just drive you insane.
Right. It can go one of two ways of that. You can get a little obsessive, but it can also reel you back in to stay realistic with what you're consuming, or what you're wanting to achieve may not be realistic. And that's not to put people down. It's more to say, okay, you want your 220, you want to be 170. That's what you weighed when you were 18. Okay, you're now in your 60s. It's not that's impossible. You were in a different lifetime back then. You had different habits. You were so active. It's the most active you ever were. You were working long hours on your feet, commuting, whatever. And now you're retired, whatever it is. Those are examples where,
and it's just easier when you're younger.
Typically, yeah, your metabolism is more efficient, and you I don't want to say pay the price for it more when you're older with food consumption, but you can almost assume that. And piggyback on what you were saying as well, with you could add on 10 pounds to a squat every week. Yeah, but because how long does it start to see results once you start exercising? A big variable in this is, what is your base? Is it that you're already somewhat a conditioned human that's been familiar to exercise the majority of your life? Or are you on the other end of the spectrum, and there's no right or wrong, but are you on the other end of the spectrum where you're very, how do I put it, unfamiliar with movement or movement patterns that help you become stronger and shed fat loss or muscle gain? Those are on one end of the spectrum. So you have to look at what your base you're starting from. And as you said, you'll see those initial results likely 3 to 4 weeks, whether you're decreasing the t-shirt size or or getting a smaller jean size, pant size, whatever it is. And that's kind of what you were talking about or alluding to, I think, as well, was, okay, once you see that progress, it's the first, I always hear this from a client. I do agree with them when they say the first 10 pounds are always the easiest to lose, which is very true. The heavier we are, the easier in theory is to lose weight. But then the closer towards our goal, the closer to what is possibly what may be deemed as our normal estimated weight, right? So many factors can influence what your weight would be ideally, but close to perhaps what your ideal goal would be as well. Once you get closer to it, then things become a lot harder. It becomes a lot harder to shed that weight. Or when you're talking about numbers as well, you said, David, if you're someone who hasn't squatted ever, back squatted, you can do 50 pounds 1 week. And the next week you do 70. Then the next week you do 95, 100. You're building up every week. And you're probably going to estimate your threshold as around the 150, 180, 200 pound mark, for example. So anything below that, you can hit a new PR every week. But it's because it's relative to your base. So your base being what your starting point is, you've never squatted before. So that being relevant, I think that's just something that people need to take into account. And as you said, consistency. It's not sexy, but that I agree with you. Consistency is the most pivotal tool, variable in seeing change with exercise to see results. Sorry.
Sometimes just going to the gym 3 times a week, 4 times a week consistently will show you some results, and not saying that having a program isn't important, but honestly, just going to the gym, moving, adding that extra, adding the extra energy output to your body is going to definitely help you see results. Also you got to make sure that you're maintaining whatever it is that you're eating, right? A lot of it has to do with energy in versus energy out. But there are times when, years ago when I was in my first kind of like cutting phase or bulking phase, however you want to see it, it kind of hits you out of nowhere. You're like, oh shit, I've lost X, Y, and Z. This fits better. And it's something that just hits you because you're focused on the consistency of going to the gym, that looking at the scale really isn't important.
Yeah.
And also it doesn't mean anything, the scale stuff. If it's a number you're chasing,
it tells you one number, right?
I don't know. Yeah. It doesn't really tell you what's your body fat percentage. It doesn't really mean that you're fitter or whatever. It's just a number. You could easily have somebody that's 135, 2 people that are 135, and they could look completely different.
I agree. Yeah, no, it's true.
So,
I think that's a very important point you make, because whenever I have these conversations and it's the person's close to their weight and they're happy, and I want to congratulate them and encourage them that they're getting close to their weight goal, but I always ask this: are you still eating? You're getting to your goal? Phenomenal. And if the person responds with, yeah, 1 meal a day, or I'm like,
nah,
I don't think that's sustainable. I don't think it's healthy.
You could tell, yeah. And then that's when you're like, okay, so you're going to eat 1 meal forever?
I just sometimes lose a little bit of patience with that as well. I'm not anyone's father, well, except for Alfie, but I'm not going to, if someone asks me, I'll voice my opinion. But if you don't, I don't think that's smart. That's just me. But
it's just, I don't think it's just.
I cringe when I hear that. I cringe, and this is also coming from someone who eats a lot all the time, every 20, 30 minutes. But it's just, I find that hard to hear, and I try to keep myself to myself unless someone asks. But yeah,
but it depends too. Like their 1 meal is just literally just a meal of 500, 600 calories. That's not great. If somebody says they're eating 1 time a day, or they're eating
like
within a certain hours, that's different, right? That's
you can paint it different ways. Yeah, you're right. Yeah,
but again, I think when it comes down to that, we'll get to that topic of diets in a different video.
Yeah,
where we'll talk about that. But it just comes down to what works for you, as long as it's something that's sustainable.
I agree. Yeah,
because if you're gonna yo-yo up and down, then it's hard.
That's not good for you. Yeah, it's just not. You want
consistency.
You want consistency. I think that's, to wrap up this point. How long does it take? I think what we should also, with along with saying the consistency, I think for every single person it's different. Genetically, we're all made up differently. We all have different backgrounds. We're all in different environments. So how long does it take? As you said in the beginning of this point, of this answer, and we hate saying it, but it really depends. It's so case specific, case by case. So we know, and if someone who tells you, they can give you ballpark figures. And the other thing I will say is it it also depends how much work you're putting in. If and but it's but you also don't want to go too far the other way where okay, you've gone from doing nothing every weekday to exercising every single weekday. You know, when we talk about January coming around and January gym memberships going up, when everyone's going from not doing any training to every single day, I think they last what 4 or 5 weeks or 3, and they drop off like, oh, I can't do this gym thing anymore. Just make it reasonable. Make that set that bar achievably to a height that you can maintain and crush that like you said, crush those 2 or 3 days a week. And then after a month or two, you're still owning it. Yeah, add that fourth day or add that weekend day, whatever it is. Go with that. That's kind of why I want to wrap up on that. It really just depends. But you want to follow up to the next point?
Yeah. So next question that is most commonly Googled would be, what exercises will help you lose weight?
Go
on. Well, I mean, any type of movement is going to add to your caloric expenditure. So just going to the gym and moving around, going on a brisk walk outside consistently could help you lose weight. I mean, honestly, if it's based on how much you're eating, it could help you a lot. Going on a bike ride 3 times a week, and that's not going to the gym. You know, it's like get a bike, go to City Bike, whatever. But when it comes to you going to the gym, then, you know, getting a trainer, finding a right workout program that's simple, at least in the beginning, simple, you know, gets to the point, teaches you all the foundation. I think that's one of the best exercises that you could do. And for me, I have my own training style, but I think squatting, deadlifting, pressing overhead, carrying something heavy, stuff like that definitely helps because it'll just help you with everyday life. If you are somebody that enjoys group fitness, great, do that. If you're somebody that enjoys, I don't know, what are some other things? Sports, do a sport.
Yeah, sports is the one.
Yeah, I think those are the best exercises without having to name specific ones. I think just movement is the best thing.
I agree with what you're saying. I think whatever you have to enjoy the movement. That's a very important one. I think in this episode we touched on, you know, in January, or New Year's resolutions, whatever you want to call them, when they start to come into January and want to be active, if they're not enjoying it, and maybe it's not they don't enjoy the training, maybe they just don't enjoy the frequency in the week that come to the gym, right? That could be a particular scenario. So I think it's very important, similar to with nutrition, which we'll soon talk about, is make sure it's something you're enjoying, as you said. Okay, I think it's fair to say everyone needs a bit of what they like with what they need. So I think with strength training, okay, all right, well, you don't like doing lower body, but it's half your body. You're on your feet all day. I think it's important to at least one day of lower body a week and one upper, at least. Okay. And then you don't, it's something that when we talk people through assessments, when I talk about increasing their frequency with lower intensity, steady state, and when I just explain to them that, well, you do it every day when you walk, and increase, and as you mentioned as well, taking the bike rides, whether it's 3 times a week, that'll really help you. Or even with a walk, something we suggest is if you're walking at night 3 times a week, for example, just make that walk a couple more blocks longer. You're already doing the exercise, so just modify it slightly so you're out a little bit longer. And that might be what, an extra 30, 40, 50 calories, which is not that, you know, that aggressive of an incline from whatever you've been doing, but it's a very manageable scenario because it's something you're already doing. And I think that enjoying the exercise, again, I think you just have to enjoy it, honestly. Like you said, playing sports as well, you shouldn't, if you're absolutely despise playing the sport, it's not a good thing mentally to go to something that you absolutely hate. I think you can learn a lot of stuff from various exercises or sports that you might not necessarily enjoy, you know, whether it be, as you mentioned, David, you're playing rugby, you know, for some people that's maybe too aggressive, it's too physical. I played for just under 10 years and I didn't always like it. I enjoyed most of it, but it taught me a lot of good lessons. It taught me a lot of good experiences of teamwork and just to play athletically and just some movements that was really helpful for things such as hockey, which I played later on. And, you know, it's just find your why, but find your way to work out. And I think, you know, hiking is another good one, going on walks.
Walk to
And
work
you walk to work, exactly, you
if
know,
it's realistic. I mean, yeah, I'm not saying if you
that's
live in New Jersey, go to
you
walk to
come to
Brooklyn.
city, go walk to, yeah. But I think, but such things with other suggestions we give to clients is if someone's taking the train, assuming it's not a time issue, get off the subway a block earlier or a
Yeah,
stop earlier. Sorry. So you're not walking
not
that much
two
further.
blocks
You're already
earlier,
on the way there. 2 blocks. Like if you,
two
David, you
stops
got
earlier.
off 2 stops early, or at least one, right? I think the one is definitely manageable. So yeah, I mean, and you spoke about squats too. I think if we were, I can't remember who said this. I don't know if it's my boy. If you could only do 3 exercises for the rest of your life, it would be what? Squats, deadlifts, and a pull up or a push up or a bench press. What were the three?
I don't know,
Remember? Or maybe it was a deadlift, squat, and carry.
something like that. If it's a carry, maybe it was like Dan John. Dan John is a good guy to go and look at very simple exercises if you're like an older person. Like if you're like already, you know, if you're like a father or if you're, you know, you're in 40s, 50s, Dan John's website's got a great resource because he's super. Some of his workouts are like 3 exercises. I think one that he posted on his Instagram was uh 4 sets of 5 squats, 4 sets of 5 deadlifts, and carry something for a long time. That was it.
No note of what distance it was.
No, it was just like carry something till you can't, and then, you know, do it again. And
Until you're
it's super
tired.
simple. It's super simple because I think he's somebody that likes the simplicity of everything. You know, he does kettlebell swings. He was a discus thrower.
Did he have an injury that made him turn to doing more carries? I
Don't
feel like
remember.
I heard a podcast with him and they spoke about with
I'm sure he had injury.
yeah, I think he said for strengthening the ankle joint, he felt doing things such as heavy carries helped with any issues around the knee and ankle joint. Oh man, I feel bad if I'm making that up.
I don't know.
Could be, but I feel he was on mentioning that, and we when we got to see him a few years back, he really kept it simple. And as you said, it was squats, deadlifts, presses, carries, chops. I want to say maybe again he keeps it simple, but I think the key with those exercises, for example, is they all are pretty transferable to everyday life. You know, for example, carries are carrying your groceries, and squat, maybe picking up your kid, deadlift, putting down something heavy or picking it up. And again, you just keep it simple. But I think exercises, yeah, I think those main exercises, and it's not to take anything away from accessory exercises because every pattern of movement has its place, whether it be for improving your mobility, whether it's to help with an injury. You could say yes, they don't burn as many calories, but you need that to prep you for the movement for the workout, or you need that to prep and help or rehab your injury. So it just really again, it depends. But I agree, ultimately squats, deadlifts, carries, and to say this of carries, I remember we spoke about this with Angel in the very beginning of the podcast when you have carries and clients will just go absolutely beaming. They just crush it down
Yeah.
the
And I
gym
always
floor as
tell him
fast as they
to
can.
slow the fuck down.
You're walking a tightrope. You're
Yeah.
walking a
I'm like, slow the
tightrope.
fuck down.
You're really thinking of keeping contact of the foot with the ground and making it very slow, almost as though you want to be walking on eggshells, just very quietly. So that's something we're giving to that. But you have any other thoughts before we wrap this one up?
No.
All right. Well, guys, thanks for listening. We did our best about Angel Sanchez, the man, the myth, the legend.
No, I'm joking. Okay.
The man, the myth, and the legend. Nah, we love him dearly, and we hope he comes back soon. In fact, we will be. And thanks for listening. Make sure to check out our pages on Spotify, YouTube, and our website, even thetrainingfeed.com. But don't forget about our discount with Roan, the training feed, for 15% off. Make sure to check out. They have some of the best stuff. Even wearing the rain shirt right now. What was it right here? So yeah, thanks for listening.
Bye, guys.
See ya.